you need to transform your self-concept first and foremost. It does not matter who the person is or what they're doing or how they're showing up if you don't look within first. If you don't change your self-concept, above all, you are going to keep manifesting the same person with a different face and a different body anyway. You will keep manifesting the same pattern regardless of who it comes through. Hello, my loves. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Lorena. I am a self-concept coach, and I support women to shift their identity, step into a new state of being, and manifest anything that they truly desire in their life. So if that's what you're here for, then come and stay. If you end up liking this video, please do leave a like, leave a comment, let's chat. And if you want to stay along for the ride for future videos, then please don't forget to subscribe as well. And lastly, I invite you to check out the links in the description box below, because there's so many free resources there for you that you can dive into if you want to either start your self-concept journey or deepen it. So today we're going to talk about love and relationships, and specifically breaking patterns in love and romantic relationships. And you can really apply this to any other type of relationship as well, because romantic relationships just tend to be our biggest mirror. They just tend to be the types of relationships where we see our triggers and the things that activate us and our insecurities and our fears reflected back to us the most. But it applies to any relationship in your life, and anything in your life is really, everything in your life is about relationships. You relate to everything around you. Now, there is a specific pattern that I observe in people over and over again, that my clients come to me with when they first start working with me, that I have moved through myself and that I have broken. I'll be sharing a little bit about that as well. And that is the pattern of manifesting the same relational dynamics over and over again. So that may be with the same person. It may be that you go through cycles of experiencing the same pattern with the same person over and over again. So maybe you go back to your ex and they at first show up the way you want them to show up, and then later on it shifts again and it turns into why you broke up in the first place. Or maybe it's not about one specific person. Maybe you manifest the same relationship dynamic with different people. So you may end a relationship because it's not working, or maybe you were cheated on, or maybe you were betrayed or abandoned or rejected, or something happened that caused a rupture in the relationship. And so now you say to yourself, not anymore. I am now manifesting a new pattern in my relationships. I am now ready for the love that I deserve. And you say that to yourself, but what ends up happening is that you manifest a new person and you experience the exact same pattern. It plays out exactly the same. And that is something that is very common, that a lot of people go through, and that I have gone through myself as well. And today I'm going to share with you why you keep repeating the same patterns and how you can break it, what you can do about it. So I'm going to start by sharing a little bit about my own story, because relationships have been a big learning curve for me in my life. So my backstory is essentially that it took a really long time for me to even have a relationship. And that's not because I didn't want it. I was actually a pretty early bloomer. I was pretty early with my desire for love, my desire for relating, my desire for pleasure. However, it just didn't come into my field. And I observed all my girlfriends in my teenage years having their first boyfriends or their first partners, and I felt kind of left behind. And I turned it into, amongst other things, a belief of I must not be wanted, or I'm not lovable, or I'm not worthy, or I'm invisible. And I had a lot of beliefs wound up in it, and I'm not gonna get into all of the beliefs I had and all of the patterns that I broke there, but love relationships, romantic relationships was a big area where this manifested. So for a long time, I didn't have any connections, and I made that mean something about me, and that was a pattern of mine. And then eventually I had my first connections romantically, and it would always be the same pattern. The pattern would be as follows. I would enter a connection with somebody. They wouldn't commit to me, or it would be very casual. or they would not be available. So I'm not proud of this, but I did have a few connections in the past when I was younger with people who were already in relationships. And I'm almost ashamed to say that, but it is the truth. That was something that I had to navigate as well, where I had to look at myself and be like, why am I doing this? Essentially, that was a pattern where people weren't available, either emotionally not available or actually not available. They wouldn't commit to me. And what would end up happening is that the relationship would fizzle out pretty fast. And then they would very soon after get a girlfriend that they were in love with, that they would commit to, that they were in a long-term relationship with, that they would maybe even marry. And that was the pattern I experienced over and over and over again. This went on until probably my mid-20s, when I finally had enough and I started doing the work to break the pattern. And to do that, I really had to look within, and I had to transform my self-concept, the way I saw myself, the identity I was operating from, very radically. I had to see myself in a completely new light. I had to take responsibility for my fault in this, for what I did that made that manifest, that made that come to fruition, that made that pattern a reality over and over and over again. Because spoiler alert, there's always something inside of you that makes it manifest. And that doesn't mean that it's your fault or you deserve to be treated badly if that's what you're experiencing. It just means you need to look at your own choices and see, why am I available for this? Because I was available for this. And now when I look back, I can see that there were actually people around me who were available, who were interested in me, who I didn't even pay attention to. Now looking back at it, I was rejecting people that were available because I didn't even perceive them, because my subconscious was filtering them out. It wasn't even in my awareness. Once I started getting into manifestation work and I consciously decided I wanted to change these patterns, I really started diving deep into my subconscious. And that's when I developed the process after that, I developed the process and the method that I teach my clients now, that supports them in changing their identity and their self-concept, and that has supported so many of them to get out of unhealthy relationship dynamics or become available and manifest new ones that are completely different from what they've experienced before. And it's been my experience with this as well, that once I broke the pattern, I really, really broke it. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I went through a pretty intense heartbreak a couple of years ago, and I took some very intentional time to heal after that. And now that I'm slowly getting back out into the dating world, I can 1000% say that the pattern has broken, because even what I'm attracting into my life and into my field is radically different. I have no fear or no doubt, what if I repeat the old pattern again? I definitely will not. It's not going to happen. It's not going to come into my field anymore. So that's a bit of backstory from me, but let's talk about why this even happens. Why do you keep manifesting the same relationship dynamics over and over again, even though you don't want it, even though you desire something else, even though you feel like you're choosing something else? And it all comes down to your subconscious and what your subconscious feels safe and familiar with. Because you can tell yourself that you desire this type of connection, this type of love, but you can still not be available for it. And that's exactly what you could see in my story and how I used to show up. I was not available for people who were available, actually available, and emotionally available. And at the same time, I would keep myself only attached to people who weren't actually available at all. And that was because the latter was what felt familiar. The latter was what my subconscious felt safe to hold on to. I could tell myself all day long that I was available for healthy love and that I was ready for love, and I could envision the type of relationship that I wanted all day long. It wasn't happening because My subconscious was protecting me from it because it didn't feel safe or familiar or even natural. Your subconscious is wired for exactly the thing that you're manifesting. Whatever you're currently seeing and perceiving in your reality, that's because you're available for it. It's sometimes a hard truth to hear, but if you're not experiencing the shift that you want, if you're not experiencing the reality that you want, then there's a part of you that is not available for the reality you want, that is only available for the very thing that you don't want. So in order to shift this pattern, to break this pattern, you really need to do some deep inner work. And as I said, I have a very intentional process that I guide my clients through with this. That includes a lot of subconscious reprogramming and subconscious rewiring work, which creates a shift in your system on a nervous system level, on a somatic level, and not just up here, not just in your mind, because you want to work with your subconscious. You want your subconscious to have a different response, and you want your nervous system to have a different response to the desires that you have, to the reality that you're wanting to have. So you need to get your subconscious on board with what you desire. And when you're rejecting energetically the things that you're not familiar with, even though you want it, it's not a conscious process either. You're doing this unconsciously. You may be completely unaware of it, even though you can see it in hindsight, because in the moment, your body, your nervous system, your subconscious is reacting before you can even catch the pattern, before you can even acknowledge and see what's happening. The reactions that your subconscious has are much faster than the reactions of your conscious mind. And so in that moment, you're unable to perceive the situation from any other perspective. And that is not your fault. That is absolutely not your fault, but you can shift it and you can rewire it. What I also want to bring into this topic is the idea of manifesting a specific person. And I'm going to create at some point probably a separate video on the topic, whether you should manifest a specific person or move on to somebody new, because it's a very nuanced conversation that I do get asked about. And it is very intimately connected to your self-concept anyway. What you're trying to change is never another person. Doesn't matter if that's a new person or a person that you've been connected to before or that you're currently in relationship with. What you're changing is the pattern. And that pattern will be projected onto any person. Sometimes it might manifest in slightly different ways, but if you look back at your relational experiences, you can often see everything had a common denominator, which is you, but everything had a common thread of a belief that would manifest over and over again, that would be reflected back to you, or an experience or a journey that you would go through in that relationship where you would end up at the same place, or the duration of relationships would be the same, or the ending of relationships would be for the same reason. And I am saying that to you because you need to transform your self-concept first and foremost. It does not matter who the person is or what they're doing or how they're showing up if you don't look within first. If you don't change your self-concept, above all, you are going to keep manifesting the same person with a different face and a different body anyway. You will keep manifesting the same pattern regardless of who it comes through. So what you want to change is the dynamic and the pattern, and that starts with you. It does not start with the other person. And what I have seen in my clients, because sometimes people come to me because they're interested in a specific person, other times they're just completely open to love, whatever form that may take, and other times they are already in a relationship and they just want to improve that. I can never say in the beginning whether this person is going to manifest a specific person or somebody new or what the exact outcome will be, although I do know that it is possible to manifest anything and anyone. But the reason the outcomes are different is because once the patterns truly break and once my clients rewire their subconscious in a way where their self-concept radically transforms, they don't become available for certain things anymore, and they do become available for what they desire. And once that happens, that can manifest as wow, that person that I was interested in, or my ex that I have just broken up with that I wanted to get back together with, they come back around and they show up completely differently because my clients show up differently. And in other cases, what happens is that they realize through that pattern interrupt, through that shift in their self-concept, that they never wanted a specific person to begin with. And so now they are available for the love that they truly want and that they truly deserve and desire. What the desire is, what the outcome is, that depends on person to person. And that is something that I work through with my clients in a very personalized way. But the common denominator is, the common thread is that you need to work on your self-concept first. You need to become a different version of yourself. It is unavoidable, because if you hold on to the identity that you've had the entire time, you're not going to break the pattern. The pattern is attached to the identity. The pattern is attached to the self-concept that you embody. The only way to break the pattern is to show up from a different self-concept and to truly embody that different identity. And this is also why visualization and imagination are not enough. Listen, I have manifested a specific person in the past and I got exactly what I wanted or what I thought I wanted. But what happened? The old pattern repeated in a different way, because whilst I had visualized all of these things and I had received exactly what I had visualized, my identity, my self-concept wasn't matching up with that visualization and with that reality that I wanted to call in. And so the old pattern ended up manifesting again at the end. So you can use your imagination and you can visualize all you want. It could even get you your manifestation, but then it might shift. You might lose it. The old pattern might show up again. You haven't broken it because you haven't actually shifted your self-concept at a deep level. It's been surface level. It's just been up here. It's not been in your system. It didn't lead to a shift in how you show up and what you attract. It could also be possible that through doing visualization techniques or other manifestation techniques that you end up receiving a partial manifestation. So maybe you get a connection with the person that you want to be with, but then they're not committing to you. Or maybe you have a lot of almost like little teasers from the universe or from your reality, and it never fully manifests. That's again because your identity is still lined up with your old reality and with your old patterns. And I also sometimes get people who end up manifesting what they want, the connection they want, the relationship they want, but they're still dissatisfied because whilst outwardly they have now received what they wanted, within they still come up against the same beliefs. They still come up against the same insecurities. And so whether they're manifesting outwardly or within you, it doesn't really matter. You're not doing yourself a favor if you just approach all this from a surface level through techniques and visualization and imagination. And the deeper work is either not happening at all or it's limited. You need to remember that your nervous system is completely wired to what you feel safe and familiar with. It's always going to bring itself to a place of homeostasis. It always wants to keep itself at the same level, and so unfamiliarity doesn't feel safe. And we could go a lot deeper into this because there's a lot that goes into why you react the way you react on a nervous system level. It also plays into attachment styles and a whole bunch of things. But more importantly, let's summarize what needs to happen for you to break the pattern, what needs to happen for you to manifest a completely new relationship dynamic that you won't go back from, where you don't have to fear that the old pattern will again come up. And that is, the juice is in your subconscious. With that, you need to remember that your subconscious deliberately hides things from you. That's not malicious, but it's to protect you. Because of that, subconscious reprogramming and subconscious rewiring doesn't just happen through saying affirmations. It doesn't just happen through following techniques, through anything that follows a short-term approach. It requires a very intentional, long-term process of somatic rewiring so that your entire system starts reacting and behaving differently. And the beliefs that you get to embody from that place come so much easier. Like, it's not this forceful thing of like, this is what I want to believe and how do I convince myself of that? It happens very naturally and automatically. Secondly, which goes hand in hand with what I just touched on, you need to go a lot deeper than you probably are. The truth is, if you haven't broken the pattern yet, if you still get caught up in the same relational dynamics or same patterns in any area of your life really, but for the sake of this video, let's stay with relational dynamics. You haven't shifted your self-concept. You haven't reprogrammed those beliefs, even if you think you have. There's a reason why it's still showing up, because you're available for it. So that probably tells you that whatever approach you're currently following, whatever process you're currently having, isn't fully working, or it's not doing enough. Saying affirmations every day is not going to help you shift your self-concept, because these are just techniques. There's no process in that. It's not going to give you the long-term results, because you have to think about what a huge task changing your self-concept actually is. You're releasing everything that you've held on to your entire life, and you're embodying something completely new. Nothing in your system, nothing in your being finds that natural. When you do it, when you've done it, it's going to feel natural. But before, it's a huge project, and it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen through some technique that you find on the internet. The other aspect that goes into changing your self-concept, because it's connected to self-worth, and that is choosing yourself. You have to choose yourself. That can take different forms. That can just mean you're truly committing to your self-concept journey. You're truly committing to doing this work. You're prioritizing it above anything else. You prioritize your desires. It can also mean making time for yourself, really spending intentional time for yourself. It can also mean investing in yourself, investing time in yourself, investing money in yourself, allowing yourself to receive support instead of feeling like you need to find the answers on your own. It can also mean setting boundaries, making really empowered decisions. You get to break the most persistent patterns. You get to transform relationship dynamics that have been present your entire life. It does not matter how often it has happened to you and how often you've dated the same person with a different face. You can change it. Today's the day that you can make the decision to do things differently. Do leave me a comment below as well and let me know what has been manifesting in your life. What is a pattern that you're still experiencing that you would love to release and get rid of? Remembering that that is possible for you, and maybe you want to claim it in the comments now that this is a pattern that you're definitely releasing going forward. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you again in next week's video.